streets be paved with gold. Yeah. Oh, my home would make it home. Yeah. Cause the world can be toxic, especially when your skin look like chocolate. At one point they sold us for profit, but we made it out of the godly we chosen. Yeah. Oh, my mama, the sauce I still holding. Yeah. Go for broke for the ones that are broken. Yeah. Please don't make me no hashtag a slogan. My whole hood is golden. That's why I pray you catch a wave that doesn't subside. This for the nappy heads in heaven. With a nappy head Christ by their side. I pray you catch a wave that doesn't subside. This for the nappy heads in heaven. With a nappy head Christ by their side. Yeah. May your streets be paved with gold. Oh, my home would make it home. Yeah. May your streets be paved with gold. Oh, my home would make it home. Campus, it might turn your table to pasta. Cause there ain't no more fathers, they stole them. Yeah. Put in cages by racist patrolling. Yeah. The hood is a lane to the pinch like we bowling. Yeah. Please don't make us no hashtags or slogans. Black people are golden. That's why I pray you catch a wave that doesn't subside. This for the nappy heads in heaven. With a nappy head Christ by their side. I pray you catch a wave that doesn't subside. Hello, happy people. Welcome in. I am JB. We are going to get started in a few minutes, maybe in about 2 or 3 minutes. I just want to play a little bit of music, welcome you all on, and we'll get started in a few minutes. So while we're waiting, feel free to get your paper, your pen, your water, whatever you need. We're going to start the conversation in a few minutes. Yeah. May your streets be paved with gold. Oh, my home would make it home. May your streets be paved with gold. Oh, my home would make it home. All right. Hello, happy people. Hello, hello, hello. If you all can hear me, let me get a 1 in the chat box if you all can hear me. Let me get a 1 in the chat box if you all can hear me. Let's see what y'all got going on. You sound great. Hey, girl, hey. Hey, Laura. Hello, Megan, Tracy. Oh, Joelle. Am I saying that right? Feel free to correct me. I'm open to it. I can do this. Yes. Okay. Okay. Capiolani. Am I saying it right? Am I saying it right? Capiolani. Please correct me. I want to make sure I'm getting it right. I'm just want to make sure I'm getting it right. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. A free segment is asking for a password. Would there be one? I didn't get asked for one. When you logged in, who is it? I can resend them their confirmation. But Maggie, okay. Un momento, por favor. Let me see. I want to make sure I'm helping, but I want to also play this song again, figuring this out. Chat box. No worries. I want to make sure we get the conversation going. So, we do have 1 more minute. It's okay. Let's see what I got going on here. Repurpose. I'm going to put it in the group chat. Repurpose. All right. Let's jump right back in here, you all. So again, thank you all so much for being here. I am JB. I am the wellness influencer and curator for the Blue Bike, a community where you can be seen, heard, and celebrated community. You have probably already seen me on my social media. And so just based on that, based on the amazing people that we've been able to connect with, I am going to get in a little bit more about myself, but I want to let you all know that today we are talking about 3 ways to repurpose our privilege to actively show up for Brown lives. And you're here because you want to have an intentional conversation. You're here because you're active and you want to be a change agent. So we're going to jump right into that conversation. This is an active conversation. This is an active conversation. This is an opportunity for us to get something from this. Not only will you get 3 ways to repurpose your privilege, you're going to also walk away with $250 on my inclusion training that we're going to hopefully talk about towards the end of this conversation. So just know that by staying to the end of this, you will get $250 off of my inclusion training. Okay. So what is going on today? Why are we here? Why is JB saying it's 7 o'clock? We got children, we got stuff going on. Why are we here? So what we're going to learn, what we're going to talk about is my journey and what it really means to be a social justice advocate and standing in for change. It's an interesting conversation to have because as a brown person, I have no choice to stand in, but for someone like you that has privilege, advocate, talk about my journey and how I actively stand in. I want to talk about how you can stand in as well. We're going to revisit how you can activate change. So let's go ahead and talk about who am I. So you're here, you saw me on Instagram, but probably the first post is I was dancing or something like that. But let's talk about who I am. I'm a facilitator and educator. And in my opinion, I did what I was supposed to do. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in communications with a focus in culture and media. I transitioned into a master's of education within student affairs. I had a well-paying job. I had a house, 3-bedroom house, 2-car garage. I owned my own car. I was living what I thought to be the American dream. I was living the life I told myself I had to live. So in my mind, I was privileged because I had all of these things. But you know, on the other side of that, you have to realize it's just because I have all of these things, just because I have a bachelor's, a master's, a well-paying job, a house, and a car, there are still things going on with me internally and within my life that people just don't know. We all are on a different journey, and how you show up, how you choose to advocate for yourself is contingent upon your experience. So while I had all of these things, I had all of these privileges, what people didn't know is that I suffered from depression. I grew up with an eating disorder. I've had an eating disorder since I was diagnosed with my 2nd year of college. I've dealt with a lot of childhood trauma. I had to due to the system, I've had to recreate myself, reintroduce myself. I experienced a lot of self-sabotage in that period. Yeah, I may have had all of those things going on, but I still doubted who I was. And I was guided by fear because I felt, in my mind, I thought that because I had all of those things, I was well. And once I realized that just because I have this privilege, just because I have all of these amazing things, there's still some things missing, but I'm too afraid to unpack that because I'm guided by fear. And that's probably what a lot of you all are feeling today and through this race relation that's going on in the world today. So how did I show up then? I was often sad and judgmental. I was really self-conscious. A cheater at everything that I did. I was just trying to cut corners. I did not feel well. So I like to call that my unhealthy self. And Laura, the top right-hand corner, that picture up there, that was probably a couple of months after we had graduated from grad school. And, you know, I think it's a true depiction of what I was going through, my unhealthy self, is because sure, I may have had all of these things, but internally I wasn't well. I was complacent in my ideas, but I had to learn that I had to move out of that. So then what happened? I got involved with therapy. I completely immersed myself in just talking through things that did not feel comfortable. I redeveloped my relationship to myself. I forgave myself. I healed. I forgave my parents, my history, my culture. I had to let go of some things to actually step into who I wanted to become. And then I started communicating my needs and my boundaries, because when you go through this journey of letting go of ideas, perspectives, and egos that no longer serve us, we realize that we have to start communicating a little bit differently and having boundaries with friends or family members that we never had before. And so I learned how to do that. I committed to love. I committed to change. I committed to being a change agent. So then what happened? I feel like once I was able to shed my identity of who I was told to be, my privilege, my idea, my perspective, I was able to love myself and others. I was able to set intentional time to build, to grow, to learn, to step into change. I tried every day. I surrendered to my purpose, to my cause. And then I asked myself, how do I feel? And how do I want to be a change agent every single day? I had to understand my ego, my privilege, my circumstance in order to let go of it and redefine who I am. So the big question is, but what changed? If you had all these cool things, cool, shiny things, you were living an amazing life, you didn't feel well, you made some changes, now you feel great, but really what was it that changed? And you know, honestly, from the unhealthy self to the healthy self, I had to learn who I was outside of my circumstance. I had to realize that, yeah, I may have all of these things, but I'm not defined by them. I'm not defined by my culture, my perspective, my degrees. I'm not defined by them. You are not defined by your privilege, by your whiteness, by how much money you have, by the job that you have. And so once you learn that to step out of those things, to step in, I think you really learn to stop reacting and start responding. I think about what's going on right now. That whole black square thing that took place, I was confused because I just woke up. It was a black square. Everyone posted it. So we reacted. We just did what we thought we needed to do without actually thinking about that impact. And I think once we stop reacting and start responding, once we start letting these habits be a daily reminder of who we are, we don't have to react anymore. We can just start responding and actually standing into who we are and not pretending, trying to be someone that we're not, right? So I think that's what we get to talk about today. We're talking about privilege, but this is work. This is intentional work. I've hosted this conversations or ones very similar to this around implicit bias with several communities in Madrid, in Tampa, in Houston. And one of the things that people say to me is that we're going to be vulnerable. We're going to unpack guilt, shame, fear. We're going to receive support, encouragement, love, and we're going to live out loud. We're going to do the work. We're also going to love ourselves, be honest with ourselves and our experiences, get a little uncomfortable. But again, it's about doing the work. It's okay if we make mistakes. It's okay if we're in a place where we're like, man, we want to be change agents, but I'm afraid to say this because I don't want to say the wrong thing. Well, sometimes we have to make a little bit of mistakes in order to grow through it. And I think that's the work that we need to do. And so I just want to encourage you, because this talk that we're having today, is not just the, oh, I'm gonna join this webinar, watch a replay real quick, and that's it. Oh my gosh, I reposted JB, and now I'm a change agent. Now I know how to own my privilege and stand in for brown folk. But I'm gonna be honest with you, that's not how it works. It's not how it works. You have to dive deep into yourself. Dive deep. And that also means talking about your history and your family, because sure, you might want to be a change agent. Sure, you might want to change, but your environment, your people, your husband, your partner, your family may not be willing to do those things. So we have to start asking ourselves why. And that's the work that we intend to do. So I'm really excited to have you all with me, just because it's the work. This is the work that we say we want to do. This is the work that we want to change. So I'm really curious to know, are you ready to do the work? Are you ready to let go of who you tell yourself you how to be, let go of your privilege, just to step into your privilege and actually use it for something that can change and be the change you want it to be for your children, for yourself, and your clients as well. So not only do we have to step into privilege, we also have to create spaces to learn. And that's what this is here. So if you're here, thank you, congratulations, welcome. This is one conversation of a few that's gonna take place, but creating the space to learn is how you do the work. And then also having uncomfortable conversations. So I hope none of you all are uncomfortable now. I think I'm a pretty cool person and comfortable, but if you are uncomfortable, we can unpack that. But just know that this is a safe space. And so this isn't, oh my God, white people need to do this and it's your fault. No, no, no. Ain't nobody got time for that. Like, I already got enough stuff going on. I just want to have intentional conversation with you and grow. I want you to step into your privilege. I want to create spaces to learn and grow. I want to have uncomfortable conversations. And because you're here, you want to also do those things. So are you ready to do the work? I'm going to go back into this chat box to see what y'all got going on. But if you are ready to do the work, if you want to activate your white privilege, let me get a 2 in the chat box. Let me get a 2 in the chat box if you are ready to do the work and activate your white privilege. Let me know if you are ready. Give me a 2 in the chat box. If you are ready to do the work, let me get a 2 in the chat box. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Oh, look, you all are so cool. My Insta friend from along. Oh, Repurpose, Laura, hello, beautiful. Look at all you all cool people. Hey, Bianca. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's jump into it. Thank you all for being here. So I'm curious to know, you're here because of what? Why are you here? I'm gonna play some music because I wanna give you time to think about that and be intentional around your response. So I'm gonna play some music. I'm gonna ask that you put your response, whatever that may be, in the chat box, but I'm gonna give everyone time to write why they are here. So let's unpack it now. Why are you here? Why are you in this webinar? Why do you wanna do the work? Why do you wanna be a change agent? Go ahead and type it in the chat box.
That doesn't subside. This for the navigator. When the navigator comes by the side, I pray you catch your wave. That doesn't subside. This for the navigator.
Where is my chat box? Where did it go? Where's my chat box go? Oh, there it goes.
Yeah. May your streets be paved with gold.
Chat box.
Yeah.
So I asked, why are you here today? Where is my chat box?
Cause the world can be toxic, especially when your skin look like chocolate. At one point they sold it so profit.
Awesome. I'm going to give more people time to respond. Thank you so much for responding.
Please don't make me no hassle. That's why I pray you catch a wave.
Wow. Thank you, Maggie, for sharing. Thank you.
Within every hit, Christ by their side. I pray you catch a wave. The doesn't subside. This for the every hit. Within every hit, Christ by their
Wow.
side.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah. May your streets
I'm going to read a few of these. I'm going to read Tracy. Hi, Tracy. We spoke. I'm so glad to see you here. Tracy said, Tracy Ann, excuse me. I'm a school teacher. I serve 20 to 25 families each year, and I want to do right by those families. I'm overwhelmed and uncertain about what and how to change and grow. Absolutely. Thank you. Megan said, because I feel totally lost about how to engage in the current social climate in a way that's positive and helpful. Laura is one of the most authentic people I've ever had the privilege of knowing, and she recommended this conversation, so I thought it would be a good place to start. Thank you for being here. Absolutely, Megan. Laura, I feel very much in the tension of wanting to be a change agent, but also afraid to offend, ignore, mess up personally and professionally. I feel a lot of shame when it comes to working through issues of diversity and inclusion in my life and business, and I'm not okay with it. That's honest. I have questions I don't even know how to put words to, and feelings I'm not sure are valid. It's a confusing place to be, but I'm compelled and committed to the work. Wow, that is powerful. That is powerful. And the reason why I say that's powerful is because we're being honest. We're acknowledging that we don't have all the answers. We're acknowledging that this is an uncomfortable space. We're not experts. And while we do some things beautifully, having these type of conversations is one that we need a little support around. So I'm glad that you all were able to share your truth there. I'm going to hold on to those for a little bit because we're going to use those responses towards the end. So let's jump into it. This is a perfect time, you all. If you have your paper and your pen and you're ready to talk about 3 ways to repurpose your privilege to actively show up for brown lives, we're about to jump into it. We are about to jump into it. And I'm a little concerned because I only see the chat box when I'm not in full share. Such is life. All right, so first things first, the first way that we can repurpose our privilege to actively stand in for brown lives, first we have to self-check, okay? So when I'm saying we have to actively stand in for brown lives, what are we even talking about? What does that even mean? I'm going to answer that. What it means is acknowledging that there are people in this world that comes from a different perspective than us. That doesn't mean that their way of living is right, my way of living is right or wrong. It just means that we show up differently, but the way we communicate, the way we have conversation is contingent upon what we know about ourselves. And so the first way to repurpose your privilege to actively show up for brown lives is ask yourself, what do you believe? What do you believe about brown people? What do you believe about privilege? What do you believe about implicit bias? What it means to have white fragility? What do you believe? And then why do you believe it? I know one thing's for sure. I used to be really angry at white people. It was right after Trayvon Martin was murdered, and I'm never going to forget being a residential learning coordinator at University of South Florida and crying my eyes out when we heard the verdict that George Zimmerman wasn't going to be held responsible for killing that young boy, right? And so what I believed at that time was that, and George Zimmerman is not even a white person, but what I believed at that time is because I had students out in the hallway skateboarding. And so what I believed is that they don't care about us. They don't care about what's going on. They're ignorant. They just want to have fun. They don't see us. And I believe that because all my life, all of my experiences, that's what I felt. I felt like they didn't see us. I heard the kids out skateboarding while I was in my residential hall watching this and weeping. And so that's what I believed. Every white person was a bad person. I don't need to trust them. They don't care. I'm just angry. So when I say self-check, you ask yourself, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? And where does that perspective come from? That perspective for me came from anger. That perspective for me came from not being seen, not having the tools I needed to be well, working 10 times harder than everyone else. So what I believed is that white people were bad. I believed that way because what I experienced, and I felt that, and I got that perspective just how I was raised. And so when I say self-check, I'm asking you to self-check your privilege. What do you believe about your privilege in brown lives? Why do you believe it? And where does that perspective come from? Did it come from your church? Did it come from your parents? Did it come from your all-white school? Did it come from your diversity and inclusion training where it was only the elite present and not many diverse lives? Not many diverse lives. Sorry, I'm so dehydrated. I'm in Florida and it's so hot. So please bear with me. But that's not always the case. When we have to repurpose our privilege, we have to self-check. We have to ask ourselves, what do we believe? Why do we believe it? And where that belief comes from. And so I'm going to give you the space to do that here. What do you believe about privilege? What do you believe about privilege? I'm going to play my Make It Home song again because I want to hear more responses from you. I want this to be interactive. I want us to be engaging. I want us to have an uncomfortable conversation. And I want to know what you believe truthfully. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to answer that, and we're going to readdress that one as well. What do you believe about privilege? What do you believe about privilege?
It might turn you paper and pasta. You hardly see donuts and others. Probably because there ain't no more farmers. They sold out. Put in cages by racist patrolling. There's a lane to the beach like we rolling. Please don't make us no hashtags or slogans. Black people are golden. That's why I pray you catch a wave. The doesn't subside. This for the nappy heads in heaven. With a nappy head Christ by this time, I pray you catch a wave. The doesn't subside. This for
I love that I'm getting responses and keep those coming. Laura said, I personally struggle to see how my privilege can help others outside of the white savior experience. Right? How do I stand in for brown lives where I'm not taking their voices? How do I do that? How do I stand and own my privilege? Knowing that I do show up with a certain with privilege, how can I use that? How can I stand into that? Okay. We're going to talk about it. What do you believe about privilege? White savior. Having privilege does not mean that an individual is immune to life's hardship, but it does mean having an unearned benefit or advantage when received in society by nature of your identity. Man, Bianca, I'm just going to be real, girl. I know what you're talking about because we're close friends, and as somebody that owns whiteness and still went to the same high school as me, it's hard to see how you have privilege or stand in that privilege, especially living in a life very similar to mine. And so being able to use it, you're not immune to any hardships at all, but you still show up a little differently. I'm glad you're able to say that. For a long time for me, having gone to a predominantly white school and white college, I had the idea that everyone could get where they wanted to go as long as they went through the steps or motions. I thought that too, I'm not gonna lie. Then I got it and realized I didn't have it, okay? That people who don't getting to where they wanted to be were just not trying hard enough. And I feel like a lot of time I end up pissing people off when I'm trying to help. So is what I'm trying to do even helpful? Right. You're trying to be supportive. You're trying to show up, but there's still some things missing. I'm glad you said that. because that's what we're talking about, privilege, referring to the advantages, benefits, the prestige of belonging to a certain group. The reality is because you own a level of whiteness, you show up with a certain level of belongingness. As people of color, we belong to our community, but outside of that, it's really hard for us to stand in and have advantages or benefits. And so when we're looking at our privilege, when we're looking at what do we believe, why do we believe it, and where does that belief come from? The second way to repurpose our privilege is to ask ourselves, is what we believe true? Is it true? Because there's no such thing as common sense. There's no such thing as common sense. I'm going to go right back to that last comment. For a long time, for me, going to a predominantly white school and white college, I had the idea that everyone could get where they wanted to go as long as they went through the steps or motions. We can see that that's not all true. There's no such thing as common sense. It's not as easy as we want it to be. And so when I ask and when I say a way to repurpose your privilege, you have to ask yourself, is it true? Because we have to start talking up with the people that don't share the same perspective. And so that's what we're doing here. That is exactly what we're doing here. We asked ourselves, what do we believe? Why do we believe it? Where does that belief come from? Is it true? I love starting with those questions because what we're going to talk about a little bit later is Recreate System, my 5-week anti-racist training for change agents like you, to unpack how we are letting our privilege and our identity show, how we allow that to show up for brown people. In week 1, we're talking about post-traumatic stress disorder. We're going to talk about a perspective that's not our own. And we're going to unpack how our prejudice is taught, because we do not realize that we were conditioned to have a certain mentality that is not inclusive to brown people and standing in for brown people. That course is going to open up August 2020, but the first activity, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to ask ourselves, what do we believe? Why do we believe it? And where does that belief come from when it comes to implicit bias, privilege, when it comes to white fragility, what it means for post-traumatic stress disorder. We're going to look at all of those things, and we're going to talk about that first for week 1. So I'm really glad that that's what you said. The third way to repurpose your privilege is lean over. I'm going to shout out Laura really quick. Because she was really intentional about saying, listen, I want to do the work. I know great people that can do this work, but I'm going to be honest in saying, I don't know what to do. I'm confused. I need support. JB, I'm going to reach out to you. She called me and she said, I want to get a group of people together to have a conversation, an anti-race conversation. We would like a diversity and inclusion training to take place, but I do not know what to do. I need a safe space to have this conversation, but I don't want to have this little bubble of white friends talking about it if brown folks don't have agency. So Laura leaned over. She tapped me and she said, what can I do to stand in for myself? She leaned over. She realized it's not about her. She realized it is about the narrative, and she tapped somebody else to do the work, and that's me. So not only are we leaning over, we're leaning in. We're going to say, man, I may not know what conversations to have. I feel very confused around which topics I can and cannot talk about, but I'm going to still lean into it because I'm not going to learn until I start having these conversations, until I start asking myself, how do I show up? Until I really start realizing that the privilege that I have is not supportive of brown lives. And this is how it's not, because I just posted a black square because I just donated, but I haven't done much work. I want to lean over, allow my brown friends to be seen, but I also want to lean in to do the work ourselves. So when we're repurposing our privilege, we're saying, man, this is not going to be easy. It's a lifelong journey, but I'm committed to doing that because that's my only option as a white person, as someone with privilege, as a teacher, as someone that's working with students, because it's my responsibility to learn and be a lifelong learner. So I have to step in. I have to ask myself, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? Where does that belief come from? I'm self-checking my privilege. Then I have to ask myself, number 2, is it even true? Because there's no such thing as common sense. The life I lived, I had everything I was supposed to have, and I still wasn't well. I still did not step into who I thought I needed to be. It's not common sense. And then the third way to repurpose our privilege is leaning over and leaning in, leaning over for brown people to actually stand in, and then use leaning in to say, I'm having this uncomfortable conversation. I'm bringing my friends. I'm bringing everyone that I know so we can really get to the root of what the issue is. That's what I'm asking you to do. That's what I'm asking you to do. I asked you a couple of things. I know we started off the conversation. I said, we're going to understand how my social justice journey and how it means for me to stand in for change. I told you that I was going to equip you with the ways to repurpose your privilege and give you ways to activate change today. We're going to talk more about how to activate change today. But what did you think so far? I know we had a limited time, but those are the 3 ways. And I want to know, did you learn something? If you were able to say, hey, I know these 3 tips, I know what I can do to repurpose my privilege today, go ahead in the chat box and put repurpose. Just go ahead and type repurpose. So I know that I did what I was supposed to do. You understand, you're equipped and you're ready. What do you think about that? I'm asking for a repurpose in the chat. I just don't understand. There it goes. Repurpose, repurpose, repurpose. I love these questions. I'm going to go back to this. Maggie said, when I first heard the term white privilege, it was uncomfortable. I realize I have it now. Now, what do? I could have written what I am going to mess up your name, so please help me.
Kapiolani. It's copy like copycat, Kapiolani.
Kapiolani, thank you for supporting me through that. I have always believed anyone can get anything if they worked hard enough. Yes, yes, thank you. Are you able to talk about finding the balance between lean over and handing over the mic, as well as doing the work myself without making it harder for brown and black people and making their lives more difficult? I'm glad you asked that question, because I'm going to be 100% transparent with you. If you all realize, I did not do a lot of promotion for this webinar, and that was intentional, because Laura approached me and she said, I want to create this space. I want us to have this conversation, but I know that you have already done it. I just need to create the space for it to happen. And so when I say lean over, that literally just means who can talk for you? Who knows the information that you need? Who can represent you? Specifically for Laura, she was intentional with every single post. She said, I am a student here. I am here to learn. I just want to gauge who I am and create the space. So leaning over just means, hey, let me call who I know that can do this, create the platform for them to step in, and then leaning over for them to be seen. This webinar, 100% transparency, happened because Laura leaned over and leaned in. So a perfect example of that is what she did, if that makes any sense. As well as doing the work myself without making it harder for brown and black people and making their lives more difficult. I think having conversations and asking your friends, what do you need? How can I support you? Is how that happens. I think too often we think we have to know the answers, but it's okay to call your friends and say, hey, I don't know how to stand in or show up for you, but I'm going to ask you because you are my friend and I want to connect. And that's exactly how you do it. Not be a mind reader, but it's asking questions and listening when those people are saying those things. Did I answer that question for you? Repurpose, repurpose, repurpose. Awesome, possum. So let me bring this back down. So I got my repurpose in the group. Is this a good time? Did I earn the right to spend a few minutes to talk about how you can do the work with me? We've talked about how you can repurpose your privilege, 3 ways to repurpose your privilege actively today. But I want to know, are you ready to work with me? Are you ready to take the deep dive? Are you ready to ask yourself the intentional questions, not in a generic way, but in a way where you're actually unpacking things and let going of your ego and your identity to stand in for brown people? Are you ready to do that? Did I earn the right to spend a few minutes to talk about that? But I'm not going to move forward until you tell me yes. So I'm going to wait for your guidance. Can I go ahead and talk about that? Would love to hear more. Yes, yes. You all are so cool. You all are too cool for school. So does this sound like you? Maybe you feel a little confused and overwhelmed navigating anti-racist work. It's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff being shared on social media. You've probably gotten a lot of emails and you're overwhelmed. You want to do the work, you want to lean over, you want to lean in, you want to ask the questions, but honestly, there's so much going on and you're just confused about the direction to go. You want to be a change agent in ending racial injustice. You want to do that, whether that be educating, whether that be creating the space, whether that means having a conversation with your supervisors and the people you're working with. You want to be a change agent. And you also feel a little bit isolated when confronting these conversations. You all have said some pretty amazing things thus far in the chat box, and I am going to intentionally reach out to you all and answer that. But you feel isolated in talking about it because of your whiteness and you don't want to be judged. And maybe you also feel white guilt when addressing privilege and race relations because, listen, you probably have cried because you didn't understand. You probably did something you weren't supposed to and you didn't know, and it just feels so heavy and you don't know where to turn. Does this sound like you? Is this anybody in this chat, or do we all have it figured out and we know what we need to do to step into our privilege? We already know how to have these conversations. Our brown friends believe in us and we done did everything we were supposed to do. Does this sound like you? Anybody? Yep. Yep. Yeah, I know. I feel that just because I've been getting a lot of comments, a lot of DMs, a lot of emails just asking what's next and what do we do? So where do you begin? It starts with a clear road and accountability. We have to identify our blind spots. We have to identify our privilege and our upbringing because the reality is how we show up was taught. How we stand in, it was taught. It's because we did not have the conversation. It's because we believed, or we were conditioned to believe, because we never asked our parents why or these perspectives came from. We just owned them. And so maybe you're ready for a clear roadmap and accountability. Maybe you want to work with an expert to take culture and media to digest notable activists. Listen, y'all, when I tell you I'm such a nerd, I'm such a nerd. I wake up in the morning and I watch documentaries from Mary Ellen Pleasant, Harriet Tubman. Jane Elliott has some pretty amazing things. I digest this information all the time and recreate the system, this 5-week course that we're going to unpack today. We're going to look at culture and media specifically and notable activists like Mary Ellen Pleasant, Jane Elliott, Dave Chappelle. We are digesting all of that information to unpack and relearn implicit bias and white fragility. Maybe you're ready because listen, I've been there, I've done that. I've worked at Virginia Tech University. I've worked at University of South Florida, St. Petersburg, DePaul University. I've facilitated so many conversations. I'm a civil discourse facilitator, and the conversations that we've had is very similar to today. They're interactive, they're engaging, they're life-changing. It's conversations about race, but the only difference is your screens will be on, we'll be able to see each other, and we'll be able to talk. So are you ready for that type of conversation? Are you ready to do that type of work? Let me get another yes, and y'all already know how this go. I'm not moving on till I see some yeses in this chat. So let me know, are you ready to do that type of work? Are you ready to have that type of assistance? Because if you are, you're in the right place. You're in the right place. This is how we can work together. I have worked to put together a 5-week anti-racist training for change agents committing to stand in for brown lives. That is 5 weeks, 5 different things, 5 different ways for us to step into privilege, repurpose our identity, and reactivate, recreate change. It comes with a step-by-step video lessons every single week where I unpack the activities. I walk with that workbook to input everything, your thoughts, to really do the deep dive, create the system. We'll work together to move through tokenism to allyship, through trending topics to authenticity, to appropriation to inclusivity. Geez, JB, how could you spell that word wrong? Holy moly, donut shop. Oh, we're back. We're gonna work through those things. So Here's what's inside. Here's what's inside. It's the course. You're going to get the full course, the full modules every week. It will be a build on each other using notable activists. Like I said, Dave Chappelle, Mary Ellen Pleasant, Jane Elliott, Angela Davis. We're going to look at that work, deep dive, watch YouTube videos, give these discussion questions and these opportunities in us and our cultures to unpack and get part one is the course. The course is jammed packed. Week one is post-traumatic stress disorder and how prejudice is taught. So we're going to answer those questions. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? And where does that belief come from? But we're going to do it in the chart. We're going to look at privilege and answer some questions about our family and our own identity. This is not going to be easy. It's going to be so uncomfortable, but that's only week one. We're not even, we're going to just walk into this real slow. No, that's not how it works here. It's not how it works. Then week two, we're going to talk about authenticity and how media plays a role in misrepresentation. Misrepresentation. There's a lot of things that's missing, and what we know is that media has been holding that thing from us and also our history books. So how can we deep dive into learning the authenticity, the truth of what's really going on? Week three, that's going to be the hardest week. That's our bye week. We're going to talk about self-awareness and the role your family's history plays in advocacy. So not only are we going to unpack ourselves and what we believe, but I'm going to charge you all to have a conversation with someone in your family that also needs to do this work. Maybe this person isn't right now a change agent, but they need to have this uncomfortable conversation, and I'm going to push you to talk to them. I'm going to give you the question, the guide, the activity, but you're going to have that conversation with them, and I'm going to coach you around how to do that. Week four, we're going to talk about activism with steps to stand in as a social justice advocate. So yeah, we're going to talk about privilege. We're going to talk about race relations, but I'm going to also give you steps to stand in. What can you do? That doesn't mean just post a black square. That doesn't mean just put some of your brown friends on your Instagram. There's ways that you can do that, and I want to teach you in week four. And then week five, man, that's me bring it all in. It's a 60-minute open call, follow-up reflection where we get to really sit with ourselves, open our flies up, take up our bras a little bit and just say, hey, we did it. We unpacked our truth. We are stepping into being change agents, but let's redevelop and let's reflect on what we've been able to walk through. That's the course. That's part one. Part two is the community. Like I said, I've been able to have these conversations with some pretty dynamic people from all over the world, and I want to have this conversation with you. But this community is only 6 people. This is not 25 people. This is, and I'm going to retarget, put up a funnel and do some ads. No. The people that's really committed to doing the work will be here, and the community will be small. It's only 6 people because we want to have a deep dive conversation. And I'm hoping that one of the people in this group right now will be willing to have that conversation with me. Like I said, 6-person cohort, weekly coaching call. Weekly 90-minute coaching call. You will have your activities, your modules, but we're doing the work. It's not going to be easy. It's 6 weeks. But you also get to be a part of our community, our inner circle Facebook group. So when we're not in our group coaching call, we're not doing our activities, if we want to go ahead and get into our inner circle Facebook group to unpack things independently or with our group members, we'll be able to do that. So that's part 2. Part 3 is the coaching. You get to sit with me, have a conversation very similar to this. I led a conversation not too long ago. It was called Respond versus React, where we unpack when we're responding with our privilege compared to reacting a part of our privilege. It's interactive. We get to use cool activities, and I've done this. I'm an educator. I worked in a high school, and you know, when you're talking to kids, you can't just come up there and lecture at them all day. You got to make it fun. And so I'm going to make it fun for you all. Weekly, interactive, and engaging group therapy virtual calls. Group therapy meaning we're all talking, we're all unpacking this work. I'm a mental health aide, I'm a first aid responder. And so it's not just group therapy. It's not just the dig and talking about race relations. It's actually letting go of our ego and our subconscious self, because there are some things we need to let go of. We're going to recreate the system. We're recreating our own system so that our system inside of us can influence our environment and influence the businesses we work for. So you're probably asking, well, JB, like how much time, girl? I got a life, I got kids, I got stuff going on. How much time is this going to take? It's self-guided. It's 5 weeks. You will get the lessons. I'm not going to tell you this is let me give you the definition of implicit bias. Let me give you the definition of tokenism. No, ma'am. Mm-mm. I'm going to give you the information, point you in the right direction, but you are doing the work. You are committing. And what you're committing with me is 90 minutes on that group call for 4 weeks, 90 minutes week 1, week 2. Week 3 is a bye week, but you have an activity that you're doing with your family member. Week 4 is also 90 minutes, and then week 5 is 60 minutes. So you get the course, the community, and the coaching for this time here. So let's talk. That was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. I'm gonna pause right there. Any questions? Any thoughts? What are you all feeling? Temperature check. Can I get a 3 if you just like, holy smokes, I'm ready to do this work. I'm ready to hear more. Let's look at some of the people I've worked with. Can I keep going? How are y'all feeling right now? How are y'all feeling? Oh my, y'all have had, look at y'all, look at y'all. You're so cool, holy smokes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, maybe you weren't talking to me. I don't know. White fragility and white guilt. Would this also be helpful for non-Black people of color? Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And that's why this work is amazing, is because what we realize when we're doing the deep dig, when we realize we're unpacking our unconscious self and our ego, that's also our privilege. So it doesn't matter if you are a white person, if you're just a brown person, but you don't show up with your whiteness, the things that you all are going to learn in this training is transferable to work with any community, because it's not just brown talk. This is, I'm doing the work to become culturally competent. And as culturally competent change agents, this work, this content will be able to work no matter what communities that you are in. Yes. I'm craving space to talk. That's what the group calls are partly for. Yes, absolutely. The group calls is for having the conversation. The group calls is for looking at those reflection questions, those discussion topics that we talked about. I'm going to ask some questions about the things that you all unpacked for each week. This is going to be a grad level diversity inclusion 5-week course. Yes, yes. I just need to know my brain will be all sorts of needing to process with the content too. So be mindful, it is self-guided. It's on your pace. The group call will be contingent upon the people in the cohort. So we will work around everyone's schedule, but it's not gonna be 50 hours each week of content. No, this is manageable. We all have our adults, we work jobs, definitely something that you all can do and process, but I do wanna give you all the information. I'm glad you all are asking questions. I'm glad you all are asking questions. So let's take a look at some of the people I've worked with. So I'm really grateful for my friend here, Kane, because he's a transgender man that has been able to walk out of who he thought he was in his body to stepping into who he is. And so with him and his company specifically, we did safe zone training, LGBT+, and you know, the content that we're using for this inclusion training here is very similar to the work that I've worked with Kane. And so again, this content is transferable. Yes, we're gonna do the deep dig. Yes, we're gonna have the conversation about race relations, white fragility, implicit bias, tokenism, authenticity. But again, it's transferable no matter what community you are a part of. I was blessed to work with Osri in Spain, specifically because we had a lot of expats, a lot of people that are navigating what it means to be well in other countries. And the content that we're talking about today is also very similar content that we use over in Spain to help our auxiliaries, our teachers, our non-brown educators that want to step into this work, that want to step into advocacy, but do not have Black Lives Movement like we do in the States. We've been able to do that in Madrid as well. So this is transferable, y'all. This is transferable. My friend Osri here, she actually is the business owner for Madrid Caribbean, where she used the content that I presented to help people, to help islanders acclimate to international life. She's been able to look at how her identity shows up in other spaces and use the content that we're talking about here to say, this is how I show up, this is how the people around me show up, and this is how I can use my identity to be a change agent and stand in for my students as an auxiliares and show up as myself as a Caribbean student. And so I'm really blessed to work with some amazing people. I think you're in the right place. If you're here, it's not by accident. It's because you're ready to have the challenging conversations. You want to move through anti-racist work. You want to support your friends. You want to support your organization. You want to support yourself and your family. Human resources and diversity inclusion training, that is something that we need, but to be able to recreate the system, to recreate ourselves and invest in change, it is going to take the work, and I want to charge you to do that. So I'm letting you know that you are in the right place. And so if you believe in this, if you believe in doing the work, if you believe in taking the time, if you believe we need to have 5 weeks, 90-minute group consultation calls, time to really sit with and answer some questions about myself and how my privilege can stand in for brown lives, go ahead and put a hashtag recreate in the chat box. I just want to make sure y'all are active. I don't ever want y'all to go to sleep. We're not sleeping on what we got to do. Hashtag recreate. Give me a recreate in the chat box if you are ready, again, to do the work. Recreate. This is amazing. I'm so proud of you, JB. Thank you. Awesome. I do put my heart in this. I believe in this work. I really do. I really, really do. So let's talk about that. Recap. We said, what are we getting? The course. We're getting the community. We're getting the coaching. And out of nowhere, Florida just gets dark on me every single time. We're getting the course, the community, the coaching. What does that look like? For 5 weeks, of course, with 42 hours of content, like I said, I am 100% a nerd. I love learning and putting together the information we need. I am theory-based. I'm a student affairs practitioner. So I've done a lot of work to make sure that we have the theory that we need to actually do the work. This isn't I just feel good. I have a Brown experience and I want to talk about it. No, I've actually researched. I write curriculum for a living, and I have for college readiness programs in Houston, Texas. I have for my own company, the Blue Bike. And so I'm going to be honest in saying that the course itself is worth $2,000. The community is priceless because we're having the conversation, Laura. We're not just, oh, here's one little question. No, we're actually talking through some things we've never talked about. And that, honestly, I can't put a price on it. And the coaching, my hourly rate is $325 to have a conversation around diversity and inclusion work. And so when we're looking at that price, $2,493, that's $4,500 just to have this conversation, to just sit together for 5 weeks to unpack this work. Honestly, that's nothing compared to what we need to do to step out of our own way and actually stand up. Because I'm thinking about George Floyd, I'm thinking about Breonna Taylor, I'm thinking about Elijah, and everything that these people that look like me go through and what I had to go through just to have a seat at the table. I'm super intelligent. I have so many things to offer, but I have to prepare my brownness every day because there are people walking around that don't understand who I am. And I need people to understand. So honestly, $4,500 isn't enough for the 400 years plus of my community and my family, or of slavery and colonization and everything that we've gone through and I've been gone through. So like I said, that's a lot of money, but I don't want to charge you that today. I have a very special offer for you. I want you to take the next step on this journey. So here's what I want to do. I want to make it a no-brainer. You're going to get 4 live group calls to review the modules, get live feedback, community support, 25-page printable workbook, and 3 months access to the course after completion. Like I said, you get all access. And if you pay full price, you get lifetime access. That total value is about $4,500. But because I believe in what I teach in my training, I really want to make this easy for you. I promised you, if you stay to the end of this, you automatically get $250 off. We're recreating the system. So you get $250 off of this conversation. So That total value is $4,500, but your price, what you pay to get to stand in with me, to become a change agent, to learn what you need to do to heal and step in for brown lives, your price is $3,300. And so that's 4 easy installments of $825. Wow. 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 My only thought right now is that we need to continue having this conversation, and I really want you to secure your spot. I really want you to secure your spot. So what's next? I'm going to send, you'll be able to have your coupon in it as well. I'm going to send a survey just to gauge where you are on your journey, but I'm going to also give you the space to select your package, how you want to show up for yourself, how you want to get the information you need, how you want to invest in yourself. So like I said, don't miss out. Because you are here, your price isn't $3,300. It's actually $3,050. You get the step-by-step video lessons, activities, the guide, you get full access to the course. And once you enroll, we are going to have an orientation to really just unpack who we are, get ready for the conversation, go through the course and what it will look like, your activities, your modules, look through your time commitments, create a calendar so that you can set yourself up for success and get ready to dive in for 5 weeks, So, do you all want to work with me? I'm excited. I talked a lot. You all may have some questions. I want to answer whatever questions you all may have. Class opens up August 2020. I'm really excited because I'm still working and putting the finishing touches on the curriculum and pulling the notable activists that I want to unpack with you all. So let me know, what questions do you have? How do you feel? Was this value? What are your thoughts? What are some major takeaways? What are some major takeaways? Thoughts, questions, what's on your mind? Thank you, Bianca. The value you're offering here is truly priceless. Thank you so much. Thoughts, questions. Thoughts or questions. Is it okay if you want to unmute, ask some questions? Feel free to do that because I want to make sure that I'm giving you what you need. It is 8 o'clock. I want to honor time. I want to honor 1 hour, but I do want to make myself available to answer some questions for you. So if you have questions, we can definitely stay on the call. I want to honor time. I want to honor where you are. You will be getting a follow-up email so that you can go ahead and select your package. These are some ways that we can connect. The Blue Bike on Facebook, on Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter. I want to be able to connect with you. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful that you all joined me for this conversation. I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to be a facilitator. I'm ready to have these conversations, and I hope you're ready to join me. Thanks, JB. This is great. Looking forward to the follow-up email. Thank you for this. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to play some music. I'm going to give you all some space to click out of this call if you want. I'm grateful for you all to be here, but if you want to ask questions, you can stay on. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for participating, and good night.
Especially when your skin look like chocolate. At one point, we sold us for profit. But we made it out of the garbage we chose it. Oh, my mama, the sauce I still hold it. Go for broke for the ones that are broken. Please don't make me no half-ass.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. Questions, thoughts? Thank you all for being here, for your energy, for your time.
Subside, it's for the navigates. When an empty head comes falling side. Yeah. May your streets be paved with gold.
Rachel, I still have you on. Did you have questions for me? How are you? How are you?